You know, there's money that you lose because, man, they just come with some great horses and some great runs, and I just flat got outrun. That's one way to lose your money, but it's a whole nother way to lose your money. We just call it throwing it on the ground when it's a pilot error thing, when it could be fixed in the practice pen with just a little thought, with just a little change in the mental picture of the turn. And so as our line goes straight out, this first turn, I think you'll find it very interesting, but I'm going to draw another line and I'll be right back. Talking about things that every barrel racer will agree with, you know, we said that they would agree to the part that I need to leave the second barrel and run straight down to the third barrel. As far as the clock ticking, remember, every extra step in the straightaways is 2.5 tenths. Every extra step in the turn is 4.5 tenths. And so I can trim down my time just by taking out some steps. So it gets to be important that I stay on this line. Now, in the Good Hands and Body Language portion of this month, you know, we're talking about stepping out and looking up. And so when you turn your second barrel and you look up, I tell people, look at the side of the barrel. When you turn your face and you look up, you look at this side of the barrel. If you have a horse that you know is going to just kind of automatically move over, because some of them do, they just come here like that and they're just going to always be like that, then I tell the girls to look right at the center of the third barrel, because when they come, you know, and they're running right at the center, the horse will look at that barrel, but when you drop your outside rein and you lay that rein on their neck, see, then he'll move and be perfect on this line. So that's a little horsemanship of trying to keep them on this line and help them not get that big swinging move over that some of them try to have. Now, the unique thing about the third barrel is that these lines are not as far apart as the second barrel or the first barrel, because they are 3-step turns. Now, my job is to get my horse deep enough to where he's comfortable with his stride. Some horses have a really long stride, and they're comfortable really reaching and running and getting, you know, lots of ground up under them. Some horses, like Wendy's, is very kind of that cutting horse bred mare, can really run, but this is about the only turn that a mare like that can run, because she is just, any movement to the side of the barrel makes her really dive at it. So Wendy has to be very intent on staying on her line, coming up in this turn deep enough to where the hip is beside the barrel, and then in that turn, you would go, your horse 1, 2, and push. And it's a 2-step turn. The third barrel should be turned faster than the other 2 barrels. So just in looking at the lines and seeing, man, I just need to run right straight out of the pen. It's the longest part of the race. 1 or 2 extra steps right there, you know, man, I'm beat. Coming to the third barrel from the second barrel, stepping off this line, I'm beat. Because you can go to any of these big barrel races, and I guarantee you that all the money that's paid is paid within 1/10 or 1/10.5 between first and the however many places they pay. Let's say they pay 15. I bet if you go and look at those times, they are so stacked in there that the difference between first money and 15th money is only about 1/10 or 1/10.5, and 1/10 of a second at speed is only 4 feet. And so these are places where you're going to find that 4 feet. And that's one thing the Tanner Times have done for us. We have got it down to a science, and we've got it down to a lot of black and white. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to come back, and I want to show you another turn that's very doable for some types of horses. Shane and Lynette have been going to the bigger barrel races for years, and watching those really good horses run at the big 4D barrel races, Shane kept coming with this turn that he would watch on the Tanner time. He would watch the horses begin to turn like this, and they would be some of the winning horses. The thing about this particular turn is you're not having to leave the third barrel and set yourself up for another barrel. And a lot of times those arenas are, say, 100-foot wide, so all you're really running at down there is a 100-foot wide area. So it's not important that you hit a particular exit line like it is when you're turning the 3 barrels, because we're headed to the finish line at this point. A lot of horses that we breed today are very hard-running horses, long-strided horses, and by the time they get down to the 3rd barrel, I want to tell you they are flat booking it. And they're just a little kicked out, and Shane says at this point, they really start kind of laying into this turn. They're still running, they're still covering some ground. Some of them can even get inside these marks that we have. This is kind of a conservative type turn. It can be more radical in that it's even closer to the barrel than we've shown. But as they come and they're running, see, they're not giving up any speed at all in this turn. And it might take another step coming in and coming out, but they're moving at such great speed when they come here and they really start to straighten back up to run out. See, you could run for off center of the alleyway, and once you cross the timer, then you could cut back across to the alleyway. This doesn't work if from this point you try to get back on center, because now you are adding some steps. You are pulling on that face enough to diminish your speed enough that it will make the timers not in your favor. And so this turn has worked. Now, to me, from a teacher point of view, I couldn't go to a clinic and really teach this turn because I don't think there's enough consistency in this turn. But however, if I found myself in this position, I would sure know what to do in this position. Now, as far as the practice pen and working, I really want to work this line. Is what I want to work. This is where I really want to go. But if something happens in a run that kind of kicks me out of the 2nd barrel, now I have a plan B here. And I can make a plan B without it diminishing my speed or messing up my turn or causing me to hesitate. See, if I were in this close at this point, I would really have to reach down and I'd have to pull hard to hit that line. So I would lose a lot of speed at this point, you know, and it would be that rollback turn that we showed in the last issue on the 2nd barrel. And so I don't want to really reach down and make him finish this barrel if at all possible. I just kind of let him float out there. Now, I wouldn't want him to float much more past that mark that we have on the ground. So everything kind of within reason. But that mark is not too far. That mark is 6 feet away from the barrel. So I'll be a little wider coming in, I'll be a little wider going out, but in this turn, I would never lose my speed. I have one more thing I want to show you with the lines, and I'll be right back. You know, in the turn that we teach, what we're calling the perfect pattern, you want to use your break-off point off of this line. When your horse's hip, if I were on a horse and my horse's hip got to this barrel, I would really want to break off of this line. My depth back here, an average horse with an average stride will be about 7 feet. 7 feet. But we have had some horses that are very long strided that ran this turn, and they got 8 and sometimes 9 feet behind the barrel and finished on that line and got sometimes up to a half a second faster running out, because they got back here and they never really lost their speed. And so, you know, it could kind of go either way. It would be depending on how you left the 2nd barrel. If you had plan A is to run up in here on the 5-foot line, or if you got kicked out, plan B would be to, you know, let him get in there a little tighter behind the barrel and let him kick out while he's trying to run all at the same time. So I hope, you know, this depth will help you. And we're going to let Wendy ride this turn here in a little bit. So I hope that this really explains a lot to you about the third barrel. What really costs people is when they try to put their pocket beside the barrel. Let me draw a line and I'll be right back. Every time Murray shows the red pattern at a clinic or a lab, everybody goes, oh no, I've been there. So this is a trail well traveled for many horses and riders. They look at the barrel and they let that barrel put a lot of pressure on them, and they feel like, man, I've got to get some room. I've got to move him over. And so you'll see them tugging on the outside rein and really trying to get in their face and handle them right here. And as they move this horse out, see, at this point, he is too wide too soon. He looks at that barrel and he goes, I know I'm supposed to turn that barrel. So he just kind of drops his shoulder. Sometimes he'll even take his head to the outside, get real bracy, what I call it, real tight in the rib right here, just into this third barrel, and really lay in to that barrel in this position. And because in this position, see, his whole body is passing by the back of the barrel, there's no way he's going to hit that line, because it would be like an equine impossibility to hit that line at this point. So he's just going to keep bracing and keep bearing and just really kick out wide and really run a big wide path out the gate. And at this point, you know, the girls will say, I don't have any control, I need another bit. And I need a spur to really keep him off that barrel. And so they start changing up their bit, they start putting the spurs on, they really start trying to handle horses too much, you know, that Brussels sprout thing that we talk about in the demonstration that that you saw concerning the good hands and body language. So if a horse has a Brussels sprout, it's about too much pulling on the face, the bit moving too much, the hands being too wild, too much rider thing going on. And so it just makes him just get real bracy and just, you know, tough it out until he can line himself out and just run out the pen with you. And so through the two good turns that we showed, the two doable turns that we showed, you know, it's all about position. And even if you find yourself out of position a little bit, you can here make a big compromise. Well, we're just going to close this up for this issue. We're so glad that you are being able to be with us on this. I feel like this is the cutting edge of barrel racing. Oh man, I'm learning so much. I can't believe how much I'm learning, how many little nuggets I'm getting out of all of this. So we'll see you in the next issue of our DVD Barrel Racing magazine, The Practice Pen.
We're going to watch Wendy work Sugar through the pattern a few times here. And I'd like for you to notice that Wendy pretty much keeps Sugar on the lines, going in and coming out of the barrels. Now, if you feel like your horse needs more room in the turns, rather than trying to give more pocket as you go into the barrel, you just ride your horse further up the line, like Wendy's doing here. You'll see she got deeper in the pocket, which gives her more room in the turn. At the lope, you see Wendy still riding her horse on the lines. You'll notice the barrel being knocked over there. Sugar is a horse that has a tremendous amount of rate, and as many times as we had worked her through the barrels this day, she had gotten to where she really had a lot of set, so Wendy was really having to drive her.